All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking one of nature's most gorgeous mysteries. Why do some leaves turn that incredible fiery red in the fall? It's a scientific puzzle that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, you have to understand a really crucial fact. Not all fall colors are the same. It turns out the yellows and oranges are just kind of revealed. They were there all along, but the reds and purples, nope, those are actively created by the tree right at the last minute. And that little detail, well, that's our first big clue.
So let's start with the easy part of the story, the unmasking of those familiar yellows and oranges. This whole thing starts with a molecule I'm pretty sure you've heard of. Right, so all summer long, leaves are green. Why? Because they are absolutely stuffed with chlorophyll. This stuff is the engine, the little solar panel that captures sunlight and turns it into food for the tree. But, as the days get shorter, the tree basically decides, all right, party's over. It's time to shut down the food factory for the winter. So to save up valuable resources like nitrogen, it starts breaking down all that green chlorophyll and pulling the good stuff back into its branches. And with all that super dominant green gone, something amazing happens. The yellow and orange pigments that were actually in the leaf all summer long, they finally get their moment to shine. They were just hiding behind that wall of green the whole time. So for the beautiful golds of an aspen grove, case closed. Easy enough. But this simple explanation doesn't tell us a thing about the brilliant reds and purples you see on a maple tree. And this is where our real investigation begins. These incredible red colors come from pigments called anthocyanins. And here is the absolute key to the whole mystery. Unlike the yellows, these pigments aren't just being revealed. The tree goes to the trouble of manufacturing them from scratch, right as it's getting ready to drop the leaves. And that is the central puzzle that's had scientists scratching their heads for years. Why on earth would a tree spend precious energy building something brand new in a leaf it's about to throw away? It's like repainting a room in a house right before the demolition crew shows up. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. So, as you'd expect, scientists came up with a bunch of theories to explain this weird behavior. Let's go ahead and line up the usual suspects and see why their stories just don't quite add up. Okay, suspect number 1, defense. Maybe these red anthocyanins are like a chemical shield, a big keep out sign, to stop insects or fungi from attacking the leaf when it's vulnerable in the fall. But here's the flaw in that theory. The leaves are only red for a few weeks. The amount of energy it takes to make these pigments just seems way too high for a benefit that lasts for such a short time. The cost just doesn't justify it. All right, on to the next suspect. What if the red isn't a shield, but more of a warning sign? This theory suggests that the bright red color is like the tree flexing, showing off how healthy it is. It's basically telling insects, hey, I'm strong. Go lay your eggs on that weaker, duller-looking tree over there. It's a really clever idea, but it kind of falls apart because there's just no evidence. No one's been able to prove that the healthiest trees are the brightest red or, and this is the important part, that insects even pay attention to these colors when choosing a home. So, with our early suspects ruled out, we can finally turn to the leading theory. And this one is known as the light screen hypothesis. And honestly, it's the most counterintuitive and the coolest explanation of them all. The big idea here is that the red pigment is created to act as a sunscreen for the leaf. Yeah, you heard me, a sunscreen, to protect the very same chlorophyll that the tree is actively trying to get rid of. I know, it sounds totally paradoxical, right? Why would you put sunscreen on something you're in the middle of tearing apart? It seems like it flies right in the face of logic, but the science behind it is actually surprisingly elegant. So here's what's really going on. As the leaf's internal machinery is being taken apart for the winter, the chlorophyll that's left over is still soaking up sunlight. But now that energy has nowhere to go, and it turns toxic, creating these destructive little molecules that can damage the leaf. The red anthocyanins act like a protective screen, blocking the intense light and giving the tree just enough time to safely pull back all those valuable nutrients before the leaf falls for good. And this is just a perfect example of how science works, The best theories aren't just wild ideas. They're backed up by evidence you can actually see. And in this case, the clues are literally all around us every single fall. I mean, think about it. The proof for this sunscreen theory is everywhere. Have you ever noticed how the reddest leaves are always on the sunniest side of the tree? Or that the top of a single leaf is way redder than the bottom? Even the conditions for the best fall colors, those crisp, dry, sunny days and cool nights, are the exact conditions that put the most light stress on the leaves. It all just fits. So, there you have it. We've cracked the case of the crimson leaf. The red color is a sunscreen, a temporary shield to help the tree pack up for winter. But, like with all good science, when you answer one question, it just opens up another one.
The final piece of the puzzle is this. Why do trees like maples go to all this trouble to make red sunscreen, while others, like aspens or birches, are perfectly fine just showing their yellows and calling it a day?
So why the different game plans? Well, it's possible those other trees have their own methods, maybe less visible tricks, for protecting themselves from that same blast of autumn sunlight. And it's just a great reminder that there are always more mysteries in nature, just waiting for us to figure them out. And it leaves us with this final thought. The story of those simple yellow leaves, while maybe not as flashy, is probably just as subtle and complex as the case of the crimson leaf we've solved today.